I'm just going to get straight into it. This is a case study of exactly how I made $56,000 in 18 days with my marketing agency with zero cold outreach. Basically, what I'm going to do is run you through the 90 days leading up to this to make it happen. All right, so starting off in month one, I'm not going to burn too much time on this because it's relatively simple and straightforward, but I had to build my VSL funnel, right? So this is me actually manually setting up all the pages and doing these kinds of things. A VSL funnel, well, VSL, if you're not sure what a VSL is, it's a video sales letter. So the way the funnel looks, we run our ads, whatever platform that's on. In my case, it was YouTube. From here, we set up a landing page to get people to opt in. Now, one important thing here that I want to lean into is that I'm collecting name, email, and phone number, because you'll see in a little bit, but phone number is a really important part of all of this. From there, when they sign up, they get to see my VSL. From there, what my VSL does is it just pitches them and convinces them to book a Zoom meeting with me. They get to my calendar page, and once they successfully book a Zoom meeting on their own, they go over to my thank you page, where it's really simple. It's really straightforward. It's just a little, 1 to 2 minute video of me saying, hey, make sure you're on time. Here's where to find the link. Here's some case studies below. Here's some of my, YouTube videos, which are at this point unlisted, but some YouTube videos for you to learn a little bit more about me. Now, the reason I mention phone numbers being important is because we also are going to be part of this funnel that I don't actually have outlined here. This is really just like the online part of it, is we're going to be calling these people who don't go and book in on their own, all of them, in order to get more bookings. So that was the first thing that I did in the first month, was I built out the entire VSL funnel. Now, once I had all of my ads recorded, I created 5 ads, and I went to set up my YouTube ads campaigns. So I had 5 different campaigns. Within each campaign was a different audience, or ad group with a different audience. Ad group is what they're called on the Google platform. And then within each of these ad groups, I had the exact same ads, number one through 5, all those ones that I recorded. So pretty simple campaign structure. What we really wanted to do was go, hey, let's run these things, see which ones are performing, see which ones are, more importantly, underperforming, kill the ones that are underperforming, scale the ones that are performing. And you're going to see that is exactly what I did. And that was one of the big things that led me to seeing such a high ROI, which I'll show you later on. So from here, again, what I did was set up the YouTube ads, set up all the tracking, the UTM tracking as well. That's one of the things that I focus on here, because at the time, I didn't want to pay for Hyros, which is a tool that allows you to track which leads are coming from exactly which ads, audiences, and campaigns automatically for you. So I opted for manual tracking. You can comment and let me know if that's something you want me to talk about in another video, but I was just manually doing all of my tracking here, which is kind of tedious. It was a daily task that eventually became too much for me, but in this case, that's what I was doing, and I was using UTMs for that, so that was part of this setup. But that was more or less it for month 1. Moving on to month 2, this is where what I needed to do was launch the ads, wait, and optimize my ad budget. So in this case, what we were doing is I started off with a $140 per day budget, and I just had to sit there and wait. Like you look at my first 5 days, my lead cost was like $100 plus. It was terrible. And the feeling when you're spending $140 a day and you're more or less just lighting it on fire, not a very good feeling. My opt-in rate was abysmal, single digit percentages, which is just horrific. My CTR was like terrible as well. Just everything was awful. 0 call bookings, 0 anything. The leads that were coming in were like, I'm targeting real estate agents, but they were like wholesalers or real estate investors, this kind of thing. And not the most ideal situation here. So with time, things slowly started to lock in. My CTR, you can see, was creeping up. My lead volume was creeping up, opt-in rate creeping up, and lead cost creeping down, right? Down here, it took a little while. I finally got my first call bookings from the VSL. And actually, off the bat, I wasn't collecting phone numbers for the first, I think it was a week. I wasn't collecting phone numbers. Then I added that in. Then I started doing my phone bookings here. But what I found was that I had a couple of ads, or I think it was one campaign. I don't remember if they were like $25 a day or something like that. I think some were 20, some were 30. I don't know. But either way, I had one campaign that I turned off here because it was underperforming. The CPL was ridiculous, so I killed that. But then from here you can see, my CTR kept climbing, my opt-in rate kept climbing, and my CPL kept declining, which is what we want. I started to get some more phone bookings in, right? And bookings started to inch upward. And then all the way down to the end of the month, what you can see is that my CTR was actually averaging over 1%, which is good. My opt-in rate was pushing more like 30+%, which is great. You really don't need it to be that high. And my lead cost was down into the teens, and I had my first day where I had over 10 leads and under a $10 cost per lead. But again, you kind of zoom out and think about it. It took me 3 weeks to get to this point. It took me 3 weeks to get my first sale, and even longer than that, just to get to a point where I was actually satisfied with the metrics that were coming in from this campaign. One thing a lot of people don't know about YouTube ads, it's the same on the Google platform, is that not only are ad accounts slightly different from each other in their machine learning optimization phase like this, but it takes a while for your metrics to lock in and for your lead cost to balance out. But overall, like I'm saying down here, the metrics were just trash across the board. 0.38% CTR on the month, a 13.8% landing page opt-in rate, a $35 CPL. My phone booking rate was okay. My VSL booking rate was actually pretty good. It was double KPI. My total booking rate for all leads to booked appointments 20%. That's also really, really good. My cost per booking, and my cost per show, one deal closed, right? Not really overall very happy with this, but I had to wait. But now from here, what I wanted to do was prepare for having an appointment setter, because I could see that the lead volume was starting to creep up on me. And I figured, well, if at this rate, I'm probably going to get killed here with the amount of leads I have to call. So I started focusing on optimizing my setting scripts, the first call, the intro call, the follow-up call, openers. I want to write down all the objection handlers as well. So prospect says X, you say Y. For a setter to be prepared, I wrote a notes template and a guide for a setter to follow when they're writing notes and using the CRM. And then I also created dial rules, create this, make this many dials day 1, day 2, day 3 over the first 7 days, so on and so forth. So I started working on that stuff a little bit in the background while calling my leads and making sure that this process was working properly. But you can see month 1 was just building, which again is an entire month. Month 2, I wasn't exactly quick about this because I had a whole lot of other stuff to do. So there's that too. But month 2 was a whole lot of waiting. There was like one optimization I made, maybe 2. I added the phone number. I updated something on the landing page as well, like one other thing. So I made a couple updates, and most of this was just waiting and calling my leads. It was actually a really boring process. But moving into month number 3, this is where things start to get a lot more interesting, actually. So what was happening here was, now I need to keep up with the lead flow, which I was alluding to before, right? I had a record day of leads on the first of the month, 12. And my opt-in rate was 40%. My CPL was $9, right? 3 bookings just from the VSL. And things really started to pick up a lot more. I had a day, excuse me, where my opt-in rate was 55%, right? Things really started to get out of hand for me because I only had 1 hour, maybe 2 hours per day that I could allocate to calling these leads. And this is where within about 7 days, I went from, not having enough leads to having way too many leads and having no shot at catching up. I was working weekends scrambling, and I was like, I can't do this. I simply cannot keep up with these leads. I need to hire somebody. And unfortunately, that means I need to waste a lot of opportunity on the phones, right? So I kept my budget stable throughout the month. And this is where I moved into the panic hire, which I'll get into in a second. Jeez, I can't speak. But my CTR this month, the second month, was 1.32%, which is great. My landing page opt-in rate, 30.8%, also great. CPL balanced out at $16 this month. That's pretty good. Phone booking rate was 13%, not bad. VSL booking rate was triple KPI, so pretty good. Total booking rate, 28%. Almost triple KPI as well. Total cost per booking, $58, good. Cost per show dropped a lot to $124. closed 6 deals. Show rate was pretty low, but that's all good. These things kind of ebb and flow on a month-to-month basis, depending on seasonality and so on and so forth. But this is where I was really struggling, and I needed to panic hire. So I personally put a job post out on onlinejobs.ph, hired an appointment setter from the Philippines. And what I did in that job post is, I put all the outline of, what there is to do, what the income opportunity is, etc. But in there, what I was saying was, hey, send me a video introducing yourself, right? And then from there, pretty much what happened was I had 1 million applications, but my filtration process was extremely lean and extremely efficient, extremely easy. I had to be as efficient as possible because I had no time, right? I was in serious trouble with my time. So out of all the applications I got, there were a bunch of emails I got. There were a bunch of applications on onlinejobs.ph. It's like $50 a month, by the way. From there, I really only had, I think, like 3, 4, 5 people send me videos. I think I picked 2 or 3 people to interview, which isn't very many, and you should probably do a lot more than that. But either way, I took a couple interviews on Zoom, and then I hired one person, which you'll find out in a little bit what happened to him. But from here, this is where the $56,784 made in 18 days happened. And this is where step number 7 came in, where I increased my budget and closed deals. So you can see here my budget was stable for this entire month at about $110 a day. Then I boosted it up to what looks like $150 a day. And what happened here was way more leads were coming in, days where we're getting 16, 17 leads, 15 leads pretty consistently. My opt-in rate and lead costs are both pretty nutty. My lead cost stabilized at $12, opt-in rate 34%. Like, these numbers are a lot better than they need to be, honestly. CTR 1.3% still, pretty solid. I fired my setter though, because what ended up happening with him was pretty much he was making some really wild excuses and not showing up to work. Like, one day he came in, one day he didn't tell me that he wasn't going to be there. Then I messaged him the next day. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Right? And he didn't show up again. And then at the end of the day, he goes, hey, sorry, my WhatsApp wasn't working. Yesterday was my sister's birthday, and today is my dad's birthday. So I dropped him instantly. So that's why my phone booking rate was so low. You can also see I stopped spending at the end of the month. I was completely slammed. My calendar was chock full. So in the last week, I didn't even run ads. And then I took the last week of the month off. I was really, really struggling. But 14.16%, my VSL came pretty clutch considering, that I dropped my setter. Booking cost $64. It was $58 before. Makes sense because I dropped my setter. And my calendar was really full as well. We were struggling to have space. My show up cost was $88, so that's pretty cheap. And then my close rate was 31%. So overall, this month was pretty good. Then you can see out of all the leads that came in, 4.29% closed, which is really quite solid as well. And from here, $56,784 in revenue off of $2,808 in ad spend for a 20.22 times ROAS, or return on ad spend. I also did some YouTube organic, but that's not included here. But that really pretty much is it in terms of the story of how I made $56,000 with my SMMA, or social media marketing agency, in 18 days with zero outreach, cold outreach.